Chapter 47. A Day to Remember. I knew it was going to be a busy day as I headed out the door with a list of errands. Pick up the mail, drop off a prescription, purchase lotion, pick up my new glasses, and stop at the hospital's payroll department, all of which were local and on the route to Modesto, 40 minutes away, where I was to drop off the live scan at the county office. Although I was running late, I was able to pick up the mail, drop off my prescription, and buy the lotion before 1 o'clock. I was extremely hungry, so I decided to eat at Toscana's. It was an upscale restaurant that catered to the well-to-do. I had only eaten there once before when Russ's boss paid for our meal. I was wearing one of my finest outfits and felt well-to-do, so I decided it would be fun to pretend I was a wealthy patron. I swaggered in and requested table for one, tilting my head up slightly to appear classy. I was escorted by a steward in a black waistcoat who pulled out my chair, assisting me as I sat down. I slowly scanned the room, pretending to look for a friend or relative among the meager number of guests. There were a couple of ladies visiting with friends, several couples, and a single gentleman who appeared to be hiding behind a book. I decided years ago that people who are extremely well off aren't embarrassed to dine alone. They entertain themselves by observing others who are eating, making everyone feel uncomfortable. So I decided this might be my only opportunity to test that theory. I sat quietly, looking around the room, enjoying the ambience and watching the other guests eat. This seemed to make the waiter nervous. He approached me several times to see if I needed anything. Some patrons acted leery and glanced away while others avoided eye contact altogether. When one lady deliberately stared back, I averted my gaze and decided monitoring people while they ate was not polite. I pulled out my phone and the experiment was over. When my meal arrived, I prayed over it but didn't bow my head or close my eyes. I didn't want my previous behavior to reflect poorly on Christians. When I was finished, I looked at the waiter who brought my tab. It was served on a gold-colored tray in a leather folder. I smiled at him before peeking inside, then waved him off with the tips of my fingers. $19. Yikes. I bent my head down, looked into my lap, and closed my eyes. Unbelievable. I opened my wallet to discover I'd spent my last $20 at the drugstore and only had $11 left. If I used my credit card, I'd have to justify my extravagance to Russ. I began counting the large amount of change I'd thrown into the bottom of my purse. Separating the coins from the lint, I scooped them into my lap. 4 quarters, 8 quarters, 20 dimes, 18 pennies, 30 nickels. Success. $8.78 in quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies. With the $11, I had just enough to pay the bill, plus a generous 78-cent tip. I motioned the steward over, handed him the dollar bills and a handful of change, hurried out the door before he had time to count his tip. I picked up my new glasses and went to the hospital personnel department, where I had to sign a W-2 form. There was small talk and pleasantries before I asked what this was all about. They explained, "Well, you haven't been paying any federal income tax since June, and we wondered if you wanted to continue this practice." I was planning to quit anyway, so there was no need to sign another W-2, but this news threw me into a tailspin. What? What do you mean I haven't been paying any federal income tax? 5 months ago, you signed a W-2 saying to stop paying your taxes. That's impossible, I protested. I have to pay my taxes. I wouldn't stop paying my taxes. That would be ridiculous. The clerk pulled my file and appeared alarmed. "Oh," she said, "I see here you asked us not to pay federal tax on your cap bonus check, but to continue paying it on your weekly checks. We messed up. I'm sorry. My mind raced. There will be penalties. We're going to owe the IRS. Our financial cushion is going to take a hit. I was reminded of the verse, "Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall." Proverbs 16:18. So much for pretending to be rich. I was upset, but I held my emotions in check until a woman from another office came in and asked what had happened. I took one look at her and burst into tears. Then, to my embarrassment, I began to sob uncontrollably. They were apologetic and tried to comfort me, but there was nothing they could do. I had applied for a job with the county, but now I desperately needed that job. Going to the county was my last errand. However, the day had gotten away from me, and it was 4 p.m. It would take 45 minutes to drive there. I had filled out the application online, done the blood work, and finished the live scan. All I had to do was hand it in. So I called Russ as I drove and asked him to call the county to be sure they were still open. There was no reason to make the trip if they closed at 4:30. He agreed, and within a few minutes he called back. "I have you on speakerphone with Human Resources," he said. A woman answered the phone, and Russ said, "My wife needs to fill out an application." I was silently crying out, "No, no, no. I just want to know what time they close." The woman asked Russ my name. "Don't give them my name. I was just there yesterday." "Jolene Caton," he said. I can't believe it. He gave them my name. Now Russ was speaking to me. "Jolene, who told you to come down there to fill out an application? They only take applications online, not in person." I wanted to scream, but I answered tersely, trying not to sound too upset. "I know. I already did that. All I want to know is what time they close." He told the clerk, "She's already done that." Music began playing. He told me, "They have me on hold right now. They're transferring me." "Why are they transferring you?" At this point, it felt like I was in a nightmare. I thought, he never listens to me. I yelled, "What are you doing? I just want to know what time they close, and you gave them my name." Just then, a different county clerk came back on the phone. "She's already filled out an application online." Now I began hitting my head on the steering wheel. "We just need her to pick up a live scan and bring it in." I grabbed the live scan off the seat and waved it in the air as if they could see it and said, "Here it is." But no one was listening. The clerk droned on about everything I had been told the day before. I was thankful it was finally over when Russ asked, "How much does the live scan cost?" The clerk said, "I have no idea the price, but Jolene can ask when she gets here." Referring back to me, Russ said, "Jolene, you can ask when you get there." Then he said, "Thank you," to the county clerk, and she hung up. I started yelling at the top of my lungs, "I can't believe you gave them my name. All I wanted to know was what time they closed, and you never even asked. I still don't know what time they close. What's wrong with you?" "Just a minute," Russ responded quietly. I heard him get up from his chair and close the door to his office. I had no idea we were still on speaker. The door to his office was open to the classroom, which had students in it and a coworker across the hall. Yikes! It was a day I will never forget.